Hello everyone, welcome to episode 3 of the Phos Devlog series. For those that are new, Phos is an RTS game that I've been working on. I've been really busy with development this month and I have lots of new additions to show off. The first major change was a complete replacement of the old UI. Before this, all of the UI for Phos was very haphazardly put together, with all sorts of interdependencies that made it difficult to extend or even fix bugs that it had. The new UI solves this problem by being mostly event-driven. While porting the UI code, I encountered the dirty underbelly of the UI, the tile placement validation code. This was a tangled mess of switch statements, if-else blocks, and very little care for the management of state. It was a miracle that this even worked. I aim to replace this with a new method that will use scriptable objects to define the type of validation that will be performed on a given tile. This not only allows me to give certain tiles custom validation, but it also allows me to add new validation methods without breaking existing ones. Next up was the implementation of a better way to control the units. This problem was a lot harder than I initially expected. I didn't want to repeat the same mistakes I made with tile validation. I eventually came up with a solution that involved the creation of an interface for each type of command a unit can receive. By doing this, the UI code doesn't need to know or care how a unit will perform a command. It just needs to query the supported commands and then tell the unit to perform that command. This also allows me to give certain unit types unique methods for performing the same command, such as movement of air unit. This system also allows me to apply the same interfaces to buildings and issue commands to them. The UI also doesn't need to care if it's dealing with a building or a unit. While implementing some of these commands, I came up to a problem that was interesting to solve. The scenario where a unit has been ordered to attack a target but it is out of range. Solving this turned out to be easier than expected thanks to the fact that I'm using ECS. Every unit in the game is an entity that has a multitude of components attached to it. Component systems are used to operate on the entities based on the components they have attached. The unit attack system operates on 4 main components: translation, attack range, attack speed, and attack target. Any entity with these components will be able to attack. The system works fine for targets that are in range, but when a target is out of range, it needs to do something else. This is achieved by adding another component to the entity, the move to attack component. Entities with this component will trigger the pathfinding system to find a path to the target. The pathfinder system looks for any entity with the destination component and does not have a path component. It will calculate a path and move the unit along it. On its own, this would just move the unit directly on top of the target. So I added another query to the pathfinder system that operates on all entities that have the move to attack component and a path. It will check if the entity is in range of the target, and if it is, it will cancel the path. This allows the units to move just close enough to the target to be able to attack. A while ago, I asked my Discord server if they would like a rotatable camera in Phos, and the overwhelming majority favored a rotating camera. I wanted this as well, but I didn't want to do it because of some of the optimizations I've made. Many of these optimizations assume that the camera will not rotate and will remain axis aligned. One of these optimizations was the way the cloud field worked. The clouds were basically rendered in a box attached to the camera, so I would need to be able to figure out a way to rotate this box. A bit of fancy maths later, I got it to rotate and it seemed to work. That is until I got a closer look. Clouds were jittering between different positions on the grid and not correctly sampling from the right position of the noise. As a result, it was not seamless. I will need to figure out a way to fix this or come up with a new technique for rendering the clouds. Despite this failure, I went ahead and implemented the free camera. This exposed further issues such as health bars coming out of alignment and lots of lag. Lag was caused on a lack of a limit on render distance. I will need to add a limit in the future. The final major addition this month was adjacency bonuses. I've been wanting to add this feature for a very long time. As the name suggests, this allows buildings to receive a bonus to either production or consumption depending on what other types of buildings are directly adjacent to them. As a test, I've created a bonus that grants bonus production to mines that are placed directly next to power generation buildings. I also created a bonus that increases the production of power generation buildings that are placed next to resource conduit. This small addition made a major improvement to the dynamic of building out a base. I need to add many more bonuses and maybe even negative effects as well. I feel like this will make base building a lot more interesting. I've also made a bunch of other smaller tweaks in the past month. I attempted to jobify the targeting system for Phos cores, but I ended up encountering some issues with Unity's dots physics system. I reverted the change for now. I revamped the indicator display system. This new system moves the management of indicators to its own object that can be passed to the tile validators. I added a new building along with its model. It currently doesn't do anything, but it's the first military building, and it will eventually allow for the production of scout units and increase the attack range of nearby buildings. I created a tile database that assigns unique IDs to each of the tiles in Phos. This is used by the map serialization code to allow for saving and loading of the map. Buildings cannot be destroyed, which can result in the building being removed from the map or leaving behind the wreckage. I created a system that allows buildings and units to regenerate their health, but nothing currently utilizes it. Buildings that are disconnected from power will no longer function. Before, they would continue to function at an increased cost. This caused needless confusion and complications. Now buildings will not function if it's disconnected. The resource cap has been increased to 1 billion. In addition to this, I've changed the way resource counts are displayed. They are now abbreviated with a magnitude suffix.